The stars stretched like an endless river of ice. The ardent horizon, forged for discovery, drifted at the edge of that current, her hull gleaming in the distant sun. For months, the crew had sailed through void and silence, searching for a world that might hold the secrets of alien life. And now, they had found one. Beneath the ship, the planet glowed like a jewel. Copper storms clashed with violet clouds, lightning carving ribbons across the sky. Oceans shimmered with liquid silver. Forests branched in fractal spirals, like antennae reaching for heaven. It was not just a planet discovered, it felt like a planet waiting. Commander Elise stood at the forward viewport, dark hair pulled tight, eyes steady, her jaw set not from fear, but from reverence. She had captained her crew through uncharted space, but nothing, no training, no simulation, no dream, had prepared her for this sight. "We've arrived," she murmured. Dr. Ren Navarro, the xenobiologist, pressed close to the glass. His voice trembled with awe. "This is no ordinary world. Look at those crystal ridges. They're resonating. Commander, that's not geology. That's structure." Lieutenant Kara Ivans, the engineer, tapped at her console, skeptical but restless. "Energy surges in the atmosphere. Strong magnetic flux. Feels like the whole planet is alive. The word lingered. "Prep for descent," Elise ordered. The shuttle roared down through violet haze. Crystalline mountains spiraled skyward, peaks catching fractured light. Rivers burned like glass veins. Metallic forests bent in geometric rhythm. Navarro whispered, almost to himself, "This place wasn't just born. It was designed." They landed in a clearing of metallic grass. The ground itself sang underfoot. Each blade chimed like wire. Each step rang a crystalline note. The atmosphere, 93% compatible, Navarro said, scanning. Strange trace gases, but safe. Kara bent to snap one of the blades. It broke with a sharp chime. She frowned. "Even the plants are instruments. This whole place sings." Elise raised her gaze. Half hidden among crystal ridges rose a spire that could not belong to nature. Obsidian arches curled upward, veined with blue light. Navarro's voice dropped to a whisper. "Captain, that's a city." A sound rolled across the plain, low, resonant, like a choir sung through stone. The metallic grass bowed in unison. The hum deepened, vibrating in their bones. "Did you feel that?" Kara asked uneasily. "Resonance across the entire plain," Navarro said, scanning furiously. "Something vast is alive here." Elise's voice came quiet, steady. "Stay alert." We moved toward the spire. The closer they walked, the stronger the rhythm grew. Clouds spiraled above, twin moons rising together. The spire loomed larger, black stone polished like glass, glowing veins pulsing in time with the hum. At its base stretched a plaza of obsidian, reflecting sky and stars like a mirror. They froze at its edge. Then, the spire thrummed. The ground shook. Blue veins brightened, and a sound, neither warning nor welcome, rose into the night. Not mechanical, not natural. Presence. Elise swallowed hard. "We've crossed a threshold." Beyond the plaza, the unknown waited. A civilization, hidden, alive, had felt their arrival. The hum was its voice, the spire its sentinel, and somewhere inside, something was watching. The obsidian plaza stretched before them like an endless mirror, every step echoing across its surface. Elise led cautiously, her boots clicking against the stone. Around her, the crew moved in silence, their breaths sharp in the cold air. Above them, the twin moons bled silver across the sky, their light caught and multiplied in the spire's glassy veins. Navarro couldn't tear his eyes away. His scanner trembled in his hands, its readings erratic. This isn't a city," he whispered. "It's a neural network. Every structure, every pathway, It's a node. And the beings. The beings are the connections. Kara stepped carefully across a bridge, hand trailing the surface. If it's a network, then it's alive. But not like a tree or an animal. Like a mind. A mind made of stone and energy. Elise's eyes swept across the expanse. She could see the ivory-limbed creatures moving among the towers, their bodies luminous, limbs extended toward the structures. They weren't walking. They were merging, connecting, feeding the city with themselves. The thought struck her cold. They're sacrificing themselves to sustain it, she murmured. Navarro nodded, scanning a massive tower that pulsed brighter than the rest. Every node they touch, every conduit they integrate with, they give up part of themselves, and the network grows stronger. Or maybe they grow weaker. Kara's voice was sharp, a mix of awe and fear. We're not just watching a city. We're watching a civilization bleed itself dry to keep it alive. They move deeper, guided by the glow and the silent rhythm of the city. Each tower they passed seemed to hum in recognition, acknowledging their presence. The largest structure loomed ahead, a spire like the heart of this world, taller and denser than all the others, its base ringed with a column of liquid crystal. The crystal pulsed with images, visions of the past, towers being built, creatures weaving themselves into the structures, rivers flowing with energy, and then the fractures, tremors, collapsed bridges, extinguished lights. The network faltered. The ivory-limbed beings fell, their glow dimming as they struggled to hold the city together. Elise's chest tightened. It's asking us for help, she said softly, voice trembling despite her effort to remain composed. Navarro hesitated, then said, Commander, what if it's more than memory? What if this machine is waiting for someone to finish what they started? A chill swept through the chamber. Elise didn't answer. The thought had already taken root in her own mind. The chamber's silence pressed down on them, thicker than the air itself. Elise steadied her breathing, forcing her pulse back under control. The words, "You're not the first," still lingered in her mind, like an echo she could not shake. Navarro crouched near the base of the monolith, his scanner flickering with streams of unreadable data. These glyphs, they're not static inscriptions. They're fluid, adaptive, almost like they're waiting for us to supply meaning. Kara paced the edge of the chamber, her unease sharpened into irritation. Or they're rewriting themselves based on us, which means we're standing inside something that can read us better than we can read it. Elise studied the glowing patterns, her jaw tight. Then we stay cautious. Observe, record, but don't provoke. But before she could finish, the chamber responded. The monolith pulsed, brighter this time, and the walls began to shimmer. Obsidian dark bled into silver light. And then, like smoke coalescing into shape, images formed around them. Figures. Tall, angular beings, their limbs elongated, their movements flowing like liquid metal. They gathered in circles, worked upon massive forges of crystal and flame. Cities bloomed from the earth like living towers, forests bent under their will. The beings radiated authority, intellect, purpose. Navarro's breath caught. This is them, the builders. We're seeing their history. Kara narrowed her eyes. Or what it wants us to believe is their history. The images shifted. The towering beings stood around the same monolith that now hovered before the crew, their hands stretched toward it, feeding it streams of light. The spire resonated, growing brighter, stronger. Then came the fracture, the vision blurred, shaking violently. The sky in the images split with fire. whole cities crumbled into ash. The beings screamed, not in sound, but in waves of light, and one by one, they fell into silence. The spire dimmed. The final image showed the planet itself, scarred and broken. The beings were gone. The monolith alone remained, pulsing faintly, like the heartbeat of a dying world. Navarro's face was pale, his voice barely a whisper. The descent deeper into the spire felt less like exploration and more like surrender. The corridor wound downward in spirals, its walls glowing faintly with veins of blue light. Every few steps, the hum shifted pitch, as if the structure were adjusting itself to the rhythm of their movements. Elise led the way, rifle in hand, though she doubted it would matter here. Behind her, Navarro's eyes darted across his scanner, the device struggling to keep up. Kara walked last, muttering under her breath as she traced her fingers along the walls. "This isn't architecture," she said finally, voice low and tense. "It's anatomy. We're inside something alive." Navarro stopped short. "Alive? Kara, these conduits are vascular. Look at the branching patterns. Energy doesn't just flow here. It circulates, like blood." Elise felt a chill rise along her arms but kept moving. If this is alive, it hasn't rejected us yet. That means it's choosing to let us in. The corridor ended in another chamber, larger than the first. At its center, a pool of liquid light rippled as though stirred by an unseen hand. The surface reflected not their faces, but strange geometries, patterns that shifted faster than thought. Navarro's eyes widened. This is a message, or a puzzle, or both. A subtle hum filled the arena, rising and falling in harmony with the cube's rotation. Elise stepped forward cautiously. As she reached toward the cube, the symbols rearranged themselves, forming patterns that mirrored her gestures. "It's responding," she whispered. "It understands us, or at least recognizes intention." Kara's voice trembled. "Or it's luring us into something." The cube shifted again, splitting into multiple smaller cubes that floated around them, each projecting a fragment of the city's history. They saw ivory-limbed beings at work, constructing towers, channeling streams of energy, feeding the city with themselves. And then came the collapse, structures crumbling, energy surging uncontrollably, beings falling. Elise's voice was firm, though her heart raced. "We stay calm. We follow the rhythm. We help it stabilize." The pulse receded, and the floating fragments began to settle, tentatively reconnecting like careful stitches. The ivory-limbed beings moved more steadily, guided now by the subtle influence of the crew. Navarro exhaled, his face pale. "We're part of it now. The city trusts us enough to intervene." Kara's voice was almost a whisper. "Or it's testing us, seeing if we're capable of saving it." Elise looked at the vast, luminous plateau, the fragments of civilizations past and present suspended in energy, and she realized the truth. To survive here, to understand the living city, they would have to think like it, act like it, and above all, respect its mind. And they had no choice but to continue forward. The stairway ended in a vast, open chamber that stretched farther than the eye could see. Light poured from crystalline towers that sprouted like living trees, their surfaces pulsating with the same blue energy veins that had guided them this far. Bridges of translucent stone arched gracefully across rivers of liquid light, linking towers and patterns both geometric and organic. Navarro's scanner whirred non-stop, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were seeing. This isn't a city," he whispered. "It's a neural network. Every structure, every pathway. It's a node. And the beings are the connections. Kara stepped carefully across a bridge, hand trailing the surface. If it's a network, then it's alive, but not like a tree or an animal, like a mind. A mind made of stone and energy. Elise's eyes swept across the expanse. She could see the ivory-limbed creatures moving among the towers, their bodies luminous, limbs extended toward the structures. They weren't walking, they were merging, connecting, feeding the city with themselves. The thought struck her cold. They're sacrificing themselves to sustain it, she murmured. Navarro nodded, scanning a massive tower that pulsed brighter than the rest. Every node they touch, every conduit they integrate with, they give up part of themselves. And the network grows stronger. Or maybe they grow weaker. Kara's voice was sharp, a mix of awe and fear. We're not just watching a city. We're watching a civilization bleed itself dry to keep it alive. They move deeper, guided by the glow and the silent rhythm of the city. Each tower they passed seemed to hum in recognition, acknowledging their presence. The largest structure loomed ahead. A spire like the heart of this world, taller and denser than all the others. Its base ringed with a column of liquid crystal. The crystal pulsed with images, visions of the past. Towers being built, creatures weaving themselves into the structures, rivers flowing with energy, and then the fractures, tremors, collapsed bridges, extinguished lights. The network faltered. The ivory-limbed beings fell, their glow dimming as they struggled to hold the city together. Elise's chest tightened. "It's asking us for help," she said softly, voice trembling despite her effort to remain composed. Navarro hesitated, then said, "Commander, what if it's more than memory? What if this machine is waiting for someone to finish what they started?" A chill swept through the chamber. Elise didn't answer. The thought had already taken root in her own mind. The deeper they moved into the city, the more the light itself seemed to speak. Each pulse, each shimmer of blue energy, carried patterns that the crew could feel more than see. It wasn't sound, it wasn't code, it was thought made visible, flowing through the architecture like a river of intention. Navarro knelt to examine one of the smaller conduits. "These patterns," he murmured, "they repeat, but not randomly. Their structure, syntax. They're communicating, not just displaying energy." Kara frowned, tracing her fingers along the luminous pathway. Communicating with who? With us? Elise studied the pulses carefully. Every time they paused, the light hesitated, as if waiting for a response. "It's testing us," she said softly. "Or maybe teaching us." The chamber ahead opened into a circular arena. The floor was a mosaic of shifting light, and in the center hovered a cube of pure energy, suspended without support, rotating gently. Each face of the cube displayed a cascade of luminous symbols, shapes that seemed impossible, geometries beyond 3 dimensions. Navarro's eyes widened. "This is a message, or a puzzle, or both." A subtle hum filled the arena, rising and falling in harmony with the cube's rotation. Elise stepped forward cautiously. As she reached toward the cube, the symbols rearranged themselves, forming patterns that mirrored her gestures. "It's responding," she whispered. "It understands us, or at least recognizes intention." Kara's voice trembled. "Or it's luring us into something." The cube shifted again, splitting into multiple smaller cubes that floated around them, each projecting a fragment of the city's history. They saw ivory-limbed beings at work, constructing towers, channeling streams of energy, feeding the city with themselves. And then came the collapse. Structures crumbling, energy surging uncontrollably, beings falling. Elise's voice was firm, though her heart raced. We stay calm, we follow the rhythm, we help it stabilize. The pulse receded, and the floating fragments began to settle, tentatively reconnecting like careful stitches. The ivory-limbed beings moved more steadily, guided now by the subtle influence of the crew. Navarro exhaled, his face pale. We're part of it now. The city trusts us enough to intervene. Kara's voice was almost a whisper. Or it's testing us, seeing if we're capable of saving it. Elise looked at the vast, luminous plateau, the fragments of civilizations past and present suspended in energy, and she realized the truth. To survive here, to understand the living city, they would have to think like it, act like it, and above all, respect its mind. And they had no choice but to continue forward. The passage led them downward, spiraling into darkness lit only by the faint glow of the city's veins. Each step echoed in the vast hollow corridors, the hum of the spire vibrating against their bones. The deeper they went, the more the pulse of energy seemed to synchronize with their own heartbeats. Navarro's scanner flared intermittently, overwhelmed by the sheer density of energy in this level. The deeper we go, he said, voice tight with awe, the more concentrated the consciousness becomes. It's like descending into the brain of the planet itself. Kara's footsteps were hesitant, her eyes scanning shadows that weren't quite shadows. And the further down we go, the more it feels aware, like it can anticipate us. Elise didn't speak. She focused on the rhythm, on the pulse of light flowing beneath and around them. Every instinct screamed caution, but her resolve was firmer than fear. Stay alert, she murmured. Every corridor, every conduit, is part of it. We move carefully, and we observe. The walls narrowed, turning into a spiraling funnel of crystalline light. At its center, a vertical shaft of pure energy stretched from the distant ceiling to the unseen depths below. Tendrils of light branched from the shaft, connecting to nodes embedded in the walls, creating a lattice that throbbed with awareness. Navarro's voice was almost reverent. It's a neural core. This is where all the city's information converges, where its mind resides. A low vibration surged through the floor. The tendrils of light responded, rippling outward, brushing against the crew as if testing them. Kara's hand hovered over her weapon, but Elise placed a calm hand on her shoulder. It's not hostile. Not yet. It's measuring, learning. They continued deeper, following the spiral down until they reached a circular chamber surrounding the core. It was massive, larger than anything they had seen. The floor was a lattice of transparent crystal, allowing them to see the seething energies below. The tendrils pulsed and writhed like living neurons, connecting the floor, walls, and ceiling in a continuous flow. Navarro knelt beside the lattice, scanning furiously. All data converges here. Memories, energy, history, possibly consciousness itself. And it's aware of us, tracking every thought. Kara swallowed hard. So, if we make a mistake, Elise. Navarro interrupted, eyes wide. If we interfere incorrectly, we could collapse it, destroy everything the city has preserved. Elise's jaw tightened. She stepped forward, her eyes absorbing the patterns of light, the flow of the tendrils. We must learn, understand the rules. We don't have the luxury to guess. Every movement, every choice matters. As they stood on the lattice, a tendril extended toward Elise, brushing her hand. She felt a surge of understanding, not words, not images, but pure comprehension. Flow, balance, sacrifice, restoration. The city's mind was teaching her, guiding her, and in that instant she realized survival depended on comprehension, not force. Navarro and Kara followed her gaze, experiencing the same tactile understanding. They didn't just see the city, they felt it, as if the pulse of energy had entered their minds and merged with their thoughts. Elise exhaled slowly, determination settling in her chest. We move carefully. We respect its will, and we continue its work. The core pulsed in acknowledgement, sending ripples of energy through the chamber, guiding them further into the unknown depths of the living machine. The deeper they descended, the more unstable the energy became. The tendrils of light quivered as if reacting to some unseen turbulence. The pulse of the spire had shifted from steady rhythm to a staccato beat, each surge carrying fragments of images, sounds, and sensations into their minds. Elise felt her knees weaken. Memories not her own pressed against her thoughts. Cities ablaze, beings collapsing into their work, towers crumbling into liquid light. Navarro staggered, clutching his scanner like a lifeline, eyes wide with horror. This isn't just history, he whispered. It's memory, and it's fractured. Kara swallowed hard. Fractured how? You mean, like corrupted data? Navarro shook his head. More than that. It's living. Each fragment contains emotion, intent, experience. The collapse of the civilization isn't just recorded, it's felt. Elise gritted her teeth and focused on the pulse beneath her. She had to separate herself from the flood of sensations, had to remain anchored in reality. We observe, but we don't absorb. Remember, we are visitors here. Respect its mind. The chamber widened abruptly, opening onto a vast plateau suspended above a glowing abyss. Fragments of the city floated in midair, suspended in energy fields like frozen memories. Ivory-limbed beings moved among the fragments, reconstructing them piece by piece, repeating the cycle of creation and collapse. Navarro stepped closer to the edge. His voice hushed. It's trying to teach us, through experience, showing us its failures so we can avoid them. Kara's jaw tightened. Or it's showing us its doom. Maybe the cycle can't be broken. A sudden surge of energy coursed through the plateau. The fragments of the city shifted violently, crashing into each other and sending sparks of light cascading like fireworks. The ivory-limbed figures screamed in waves of color, their forms flickering as they struggled to maintain the structure. Elise grabbed Kara's arm. Step back. This is the danger it warned us about. Navarro's scanner went haywire. The memory is fracturing even more. The city is destabilizing, and it's reaching out for help. A pulse of light shot directly at Elise, and in that instant she understood. Not in words, not in images, but in pure comprehension. The city wasn't just a place, it was a consciousness, and it had made them witnesses, or participants. Elise's voice was firm, though her heart raced. We stay calm. We follow the rhythm. We help it stabilize. The pulse receded, and the floating fragments began to settle, tentatively reconnecting like careful stitches. The ivory-limbed beings moved more steadily, guided now by the subtle influence of the crew. Navarro exhaled, his face pale. We're part of it now? The city trusts us enough to intervene. Kara's voice was almost a whisper. Or it's testing us, seeing if we're capable of saving it. Elise looked at the vast, luminous plateau, the fragments of civilizations past and present suspended in energy, and she realized the truth. To survive here, to understand the living city, they would have to think like it, act like it, and above all, respect its mind. And they had no choice but to continue. Further they descended, The air itself seemed charged with purpose. The corridors narrowed, then expanded into vast chambers of crystalline lattice that hummed with unrelenting energy. Each pulse of the spire reverberated through their bones, aligning their steps with the rhythm of a mind far older and wiser than any human. Navarro led the way cautiously, his scanner overflowing with data he could not fully comprehend. This, this is the core, he said, voice trembling. Every conduit, every node, it converges here. This is the heart of the spire. Kara's eyes darted across the chamber, tracing the tendrils of blue energy weaving through the walls, ceiling, and floor. It's beautiful and terrifying, all at once. At the center floated the monolith, a dark, angular shape suspended above a pool of liquid light. The glyphs covering its surface pulsed in a rhythm that resonated with the very core of the chamber. Elise stepped closer, her instincts screaming caution. She could feel the intelligence of the spire pressing against her mind, probing, measuring, seeking comprehension. We've come this far. We need to understand it, Navarro. Every movement, every choice, it matters now more than ever. Navarro nodded, his eyes fixed on the monolith. The glyphs, they're communicating principles. Flow, balance, preservation, sacrifice, everything the civilization once knew, encoded in light. Kara's voice was tense. And if we make a mistake? Elise's gaze hardened. Then we fail them. And we fail ourselves. The monolith pulsed brighter, and tendrils of light extended from its surface, weaving into the pool below. Images and sensations flooded their minds. Ivory-limbed beings weaving themselves into the city, feeding it with their life force. Towers collapsing and rising again, energy flowing through every node like veins of thought. Navarro whispered, awed. It's entrusting us with its survival, with the continuation of its civilization. Elise's voice was steady, filled with determination. Then we complete what they began. We stabilize the network. We heal the fractures. They moved as one, following the pulse of the spire. Every step, every gesture, aligned with the rhythm of the city. The tendrils of light responded, guiding them to nodes that required their attention. One by one, they repaired the broken circuits of energy, restored the flow to collapsed towers, and balanced the currents of life force within the floating city. The ivory-limbed beings appeared once more, their forms luminous, moving alongside the crew. No longer distant or unreachable, they became collaborators, guiding and observing, merging their efforts with human hands and minds. As the final pulse surged through the spire, the city stabilized. The lattice shone in perfect harmony, the floating towers suspended with grace, the veins of energy flowing in unison. The hum of the city transformed from chaotic resonance into a steady, serene rhythm, its consciousness alive, aware, and whole once more. Elise looked at Navarro and Kara, her eyes reflecting the radiant glow. We did it, she said softly. We're part of it now. We've earned its trust. Navarro nodded, awe still written on his face. And it's given us something toward the monolith. The glyphs pulsed one final time, then faded into a calm, steady light. It was a silent acknowledgement, a promise that the city's legacy would endure, now shared between alien intelligence and human hearts. Above them, the spire's ceiling remained unseen, the infinite lattice stretching toward the stars. The city had survived, not alone, but with them. And as the pulse of the living machines settled into serenity, Elise understood something profound. Discovery was not enough. Understanding, collaboration, and courage, that was what ensured life could continue, even across worlds. Navarro exhaled, his eyes glistening with a mix of awe and exhaustion. We We've witnessed something no one else could even imagine. A civilization preserved in energy, and now, partially entrusted to us, Kara's voice, soft but filled with wonder, said, "It's alive. And it's alive because we respected it, because we chose to learn rather than dominate." Elise looked at her crew, her heart steady. This is only the beginning. We are now its keepers, its students, its partners. We've earned its trust, but that trust carries responsibility. Every choice from this point on matters for the city, for its memory, and for the future. The pulse of the spire resonated through their bodies one final time, a steady rhythm that aligned them with the heartbeat of the city itself. The floating towers shimmered, the tendrils of light danced gracefully, and the ivory-limbed beings moved with serenity, a silent testament to the balance restored. As the crew of the Ardent Horizon stepped back into the corridors, they carried with them more than knowledge or data. They carried comprehension, empathy, and connection, a bond with a civilization that spanned light years and lifetimes. Above, the twin moons of the alien planet glimmered, reflecting in the crystalline spire, and somewhere within the lattice of light and memory, the city pulsed, alive, aware, and whole. Elise whispered to herself, "It promised more than a statement. We will honor you. We will endure with you, together." And with that, the city, the crew, and the spire became one, a harmony of life, thought, and action stretching across the alien horizon, an eternal pulse in the heart of the universe.